Hey, how is everyone doing today? Trienne here, your leadership performance coach with the Be That Create That social channels. I am really excited to be bringing you this interview today. I mean, I love doing these interviews with everybody for the podcast and for the YouTubes and the groups and all the things, because we want to make sure that we meet you where you're at when it comes to how you are getting your content, spending your time. And thank you so much for taking us along the ride. Today, however, I have for you my good friend Chaitali. I feel like I've known her for a couple of years now, but it's just been within the last maybe year or so that we've been working together on a couple different projects. And I just respect and value her information so much. So I can't wait to share her with you today and the way that she is making an impact with what she's doing in business and in life and bringing that to people that she surrounds herself with. So let me bring her from backstage here. Hello, hello again.
Hello, Trienne. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yeah, I am too. We've had this on the books for so long, which is so funny. I have people that are like, you're just such a busy person. And I'm like, I'm not busy. We just have to get ourselves into the schedule, right? So I appreciate your flexibility and you get it. So
Oh my God. Yeah. If it's not on my calendar, girl, I'll forget. Like it's become so second nature to look at that because it's small or big. If it's on the calendar, one, it's visual for me. Two, it's like that easy reminder. And then three, you're committed. And that commitment is paramount, right? In business, in life. So it's all about the Google Calendar.
it is. And I tell you what, like the color coding and the actually having to kind of check it off if I put it in there as a task has been an accountability game changer for me. I mean, I love my Trello and I can use that as well, but the Google Calendar, like you said, that's the first thing that I go to. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the community, share kind of what you do and what's led you up to kind of where you're at right now.
Yeah, sure. So again, I'm Chaitali Desai. I'm a business and success mentor, and I mentor utilizing the lens of human design. And then once we've got you into your energetic flow, into your alignment, then we use hypnosis and nervous system regulation to get your mind and your body on board with your vision. So I'm very much into the number 3, and I see it. It's like it comes into all aspects of my world, including how I mentor.
I love that so much because whenever I do my trainings, I'm always like, okay, I work in 3s and 10s. That's just how we do it. So, if I start giving you tips today, there will be either 3 or 10. That is what we will have.
Yeah, I love the number 3 is like magical for me. So it really helps. And I don't know, it's almost like the Holy Trinity for me. It's not about religion. It's more just seeing, okay, mind, body, spirit. How do we put it together so that really you get to step into your full power?
Mhm. I love that word. Step into your power. It just makes me think of, people really seeing their potential, but not only seeing it, but reaching for it and feeling so good about where they're at.
Yeah, you're putting it on. Always think like so with human design. We can get into what that is in a second, but like
Sure.
with that aspect, I'm I'm leading you because you decided that you wanted to step into your true identity. Right? We've all
Mm,
been conditioned for however many years to be a certain way that society deemed acceptable, especially women. And if you're a woman of color, you're wearing multiple layers of conditioning.
mhm.
So, what I bring to the table is I help you unearth your authenticity, that design that you were born with. And okay, how am I going to, one, start to flow in that? And then two, be confident in showing up that way because sometimes you're going to go up against the grain. And in leadership, you get to be okay with that, ruffling feathers.
Yeah, and so bringing up leadership, we talk a lot about leadership in the community in all different aspects, not only like creating our own leadership lifestyle, but the fact that leadership can really come from every decision that we're making.
Yeah.
every decision. And even so today I'm in my character education office, and even in character education, we talk with the kids about how the decision you're making right now is going to lead you down a certain path, whether it's what you're having for lunch, the friends you're hanging out with, what you wear today, how you carry yourself, the words you use, all of those are adding up, right? So when
Right.
you think of leadership, how would you define that? Or can you give an example of how you would use that or explain it to someone?
Oh, that's a really good question. So leadership for me,
Mhm.
it always comes down to self-responsibility.
Mhm.
You you get to really own the fact that not only do you have choices in the world, but you get to decide what you're actually gonna do. And I'll
Mhm.
tell you, it's funny that you brought up, just like what you're gonna eat for lunch and all of that, because right now I'm in this transitional phase where I'm changing so many aspects of my lifestyle. Even
Mhm.
coffee. Today is day 2 or day 3 of no coffee, but then my brain was like, is it really the coffee that you don't need?" The answer is yes. I don't actually need the coffee, but I defaulted and I'm like, "Okay, I'll just make, like, 2 cups and let's see how it feels." And I'm drinking it, I'm like, this was not my best self-led decision. This was a decision
Mhm.
by default." And so that's what I mean when I say, like, it is a question of you have all these choices you can make, but what is true for you? And that's where that level of self-responsibility really comes into play.
Yeah, and when we're thinking of things that we do in default, I mean, that definitely takes us back to human design because it's
Yeah.
our authentic selves and, really truly what we're born with. So, can you give us a synopsis of human design and maybe how you started using it?
Yeah, sure. So human design is the combination of astrology, the Kabbalah, the Chinese I Ching, and the Hindu chakra system. And so
Mhm.
what it does, very similar to astrology, you take your time of birth, date of birth, and location. I put it into my little system, and it gives me what's called a body graph.
Mhm.
As you know, in like with the chakras, there's 7, but as humans have evolved, we've now become a 9-centered being. And
Mhm.
when you think of these centers, I want you to think of like the components of an engine of a car. So your body being the car, the vehicle, and then the centers is how the engine does its thing and how the gasoline knows to go here or the electricity needs to go there. It just knows how to operate on the inside and it's flowing. Oftentimes, if you don't take your car in for the tune up, all the gunk builds up.
Mhm.
Same thing happens in your body. And that's why I bring in the hypnosis and the human design in the nervous system work to clear the gunk. And the way it works is once we get this body graph, it gives you really a blueprint of
Mhm.
how you were created, how your centers get to work. For those who are not into cars, maybe you're into tech. It's your operating system,
Mhm.
right? And it teaches you, okay, here's my operating system, and here are the codes that I can plug in that's going to make my life easier. Not simple, but easier.
Mhm.
And then you get to start deciding, making decisions from that standpoint, even down to how you eat, how you digest, how you sleep, how you exercise. All of that's already imprinted. It's learning to read it and to start to understand it. And a lot of the process in the first few sessions with me is the deconditioning,
Mhm.
meaning we let go of what society showed us to do and
Mhm.
step into what is right for you, the actual human.
Mhm, and that's where, so, in leadership, a lot of times we'll go, okay, these are the things that are our opportunities. These are the things that are our strengths. And there's kind of two different, lessons there. Some people will say, okay, go all in on your strengths and then have other people work on the areas that you feel like are an opportunity. You go all in on your strengths, right? Like, why would we deny those? And then there's the other thought is like, okay, you know what your strengths are, you're now aware of what your opportunities are. How can we start to pick away at some of those opportunities to create them into strengths? So when you look at someone's body graph or human design chart, which one of those kind of schools do you go with?
Both. It's a dance
Mm.
because in my opinion, you get to have them both and understand like what it's going to look like for you. So if the strength is your voice, then if opportunities come on to be a podcast or to go speak on stage or whatever, it doesn't matter what the vocal opportunity is, or to even write for a blog article. Okay, how are we going to utilize the strength of your throat center in this opportunity? So that's what I mean by it's a dance.
Mm-hmm. I love that because, yeah, when you look at the body chart, there's the closed centers and then there's the open centers. So can you
Yep.
maybe go into the difference between the open and the closed?
Sure. So in the 9 centers, if you have your body graph, some of the centers will be colored in and
Mm-hmm.
some of them will be white. When it's colored in, the color doesn't matter, but that means it's defined and you have consistent access. When it's open or undefined is another term for it, then it means you have inconsistent access.
Mm.
It doesn't mean that you can never. So if you, let's go back to the throat, if your throat is undefined or open, it doesn't mean that you cannot speak, that you cannot manifest, that you are not able to deliver your message. It's how you deliver your message that will be critical to start understanding. So for myself, I have a defined throat, consistent access. So I speak a lot, but
Mhm.
with intention. When you have undefined throat, if you're in the lower frequency of it, you'll constantly be rambling, but it will never land. So it's learning when the right time for you to speak is. And that's where
Okay.
your
Yeah.
opportunity comes into play.
So in my chart, my throat is defined. And I remember I pulled up another person in my family because I did it for my husband and for my 2 kids, because I had their information. So I was like, well, I'm sure that this would help our relationships, right? So
Yeah,
there's a
for
person in my
sure.
family who I have the defined and they have the open. And I
Mhm.
started to think about the way we communicate things. And I was like, oh, yeah, I always want to talk about it, and that person always, like, they're uncomfortable, you can tell, because it's like an up and away, like I'm not ready to talk about it, and it's like they have to really think about how to use their words.
Yeah, plus it's also the intentionality behind it. So it's great that they know that, okay, I know you want to talk about it, but I'm not quite ready for it.
Mhm.
Let me process through and I'll come back to the table. So that's another way, that's self leadership right there.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
leadership
And
for
so,
ourselves too, to be able to be like, no, I know this about this person, I need to give them that space, because in that moment, right, it's not about me, it's about we.
yeah.
So that looking up, once you get your own, looking up those family members, that was kind of cool, actually.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And it's helped me in with my children because where I am defined, and so it has been really and so that has been fascinating,
Mhm.
especially because their authority is all.
Good.
And really understanding how their chart is designed is fascinating because you get to now see the interplay of energies. So for myself, where my children are both defined, I am undefined. So I can see like, oh, okay, they have their way of processing information and I'm just like over here free spirited. And so we have a very different way of approaching it. So it's up to me as the parent who understands, okay, how am I going to lead us here? Because they have their way of thinking and processing, and I do not. I get to be the open minded one and give them the space to come and share what they need to share. And
Mhm.
it
And
also
I
comes down to our inner authority. They are both emotional solar plexus uh, or inner authorities, and I am so not. So really understanding how to ride their emotional wave and to parent them through it, and then to come back and be like, hey, you know what just happened? This is what's going on with you, and here's how you can use that moving forward.
Mhm.
So it from a leadership standpoint,
Mhm.
it's not only helped me in business, but in life. So and you know how I am, like what you do in one thing, you probably are doing in another thing. So it makes sense that I use it this way.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think too many people miss the fact that they really are the leaders of even something like their household. And when we're
Yeah.
looking at those relationships and we're being so intentional about the energy in between and the words that we're using and how we can teach our kids that there's a lesson from everything that happens, man, it can be beautiful down the road, but also for them to really have that self-awareness. Kids are missing that right now. They're so looking outward to figure out who they are when we get the opportunity. And I love that you're saying get to so often, right? Because we have to change that have to get to. But being able to teach those kids that their self-awareness doesn't come from outside. It really does come from what makes them feel good and makes them feel most authentic.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the greatest lessons we get to teach this next generation, because you as an adult, as a mentor, we see so many people. What's the thing? Shiny object syndrome? Like
Mhm.
they're thinking this next course or this next product or this next hairstyle is going to cure everything for them. And it's not until they do the inner game and they look internal. It doesn't matter. Again, business life, it all flows together. Taking that level of self-responsibility and showing up for your life, there's not that's the game right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, so many golden nuggets in that. Will you go ahead and share your Facebook community that you have right now and your podcast and kind of give us some info on those so that they can follow you and get more information about those topics?
Yeah, sure. So the community is called the Soul Confidential Lounge. And I dive into more of these different elements that I mentor on within the group and offer support. There's also complementary tapping, so emotional freedom technique, because that's one of the tools that I started with when I moved into this level of self awareness, self responsibility, really moving not only the mental tape, but the emotional store that got stored in the body, because tapping works down the meridians. So it started to clear all of that and it creates space for this new identity to step into place. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then there's loads of other just like fun things and different aspects in the community. And it's a community, which I love because you get to understand you're not alone. Then I have the podcast Soul Mastery, which your episode will be on in a couple of weeks. So that'll be an exciting
Exciting.
conversation.
Yeah.
Um, Soul Mastery. And that is, again, very similar here, where it's business and lifestyle oriented. And it's a beautiful place for women to start at both the group and the podcast. It's a great place for women to start asking themselves some of these questions. I think as we get into midlife, you start to wonder, okay, well, my kids are getting older. I've done all those things. Now what? What am I going to do with myself? Right. And I noticed a lot of the community that follows me, they're starting in their late teens. And I think that's brilliant.
Mhm.
If I can be that voice that helps them understand that, hey, you don't have to wait for yourself for that level of self discovery, man, let's go.
Yeah, if they can figure that out earlier, oh my gosh.
Right.
Wish I had. I mean, I had a great mentor, I would say that, but I wish I had some of the opportunities available and I almost that we have now, but I almost think to myself like it's not too late. Anyone who's listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, well, I've already been in a leadership position for quite a while, or I've already been in business for quite a while. I've already been, in this position for quite a while. It doesn't matter. You can take the information that you learned today, turn around, teach it so it solidifies within you, but also you are getting this opportunity to make a difference for another person as well as yourself. And Lord knows what comes after that.
Yeah, that's the ripple effect.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, I appreciate you so much being on today, and I know that
Yeah, thank you.
you're so busy. So I do appreciate that. You're doing such good work and making such a great impact out there. And specifically for me, I'm super grateful to have you in my life. So, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming on today. And if you guys get the chance to go onto the Facebook group or the podcast, I'll make sure I put that information down in the show notes as well. And you have quite a Instagram as well. So where can they follow you on the Instagram handle?
Oh, it's at Chaitali B Desai. So just my name. I try to keep it as simple as possible, which is always kind of funny because my name is a little complicated, but it's simple. It's good.
Yeah, it's easy after you do it a couple times. I mean, I do have to scribble a couple times, but same thing happens to me. I get Trienne, Triana, Trinani, I get it all. So I totally understand. All right, guys, thank you for being on with us today for another episode of Be That Create That. Whether you're getting us on the YouTube, the podcast, or in our Facebook group, we thank you so much for being here. So get out there, make your impact. It is never too late to be leading well and creating that lifestyle you desire. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.